So if you're looking to watch the Karen Reed trial, and it is full, it's a retrial. Like I can recap today if you want.
Oh yeah.
It's a
Well, so
retrial.
it's the retrial of the initial trial where was it a hung jury the first time? It was a hung jury, and then they
yes.
couldn't come back with a verdict.
Right. And the case is wild. A brief summary of the case is there's this woman named Karen Reed. She's dating a police officer in Massachusetts. And there's a police officer party that starts out at a bar, ends up at one of the officers' houses. Karen Reed and her boyfriend have some sort of maybe altercation. She ends up driving away. There's a snowstorm. He ends up dead on the ground outside in the front yard. And the theory of the case of the state is that she backed up this SUV, hit him in the head, I guess, knocked him unconscious. He falls to the ground and dies out in the snow. The official cause of death is hypothermia. However, they believe there's a head trauma related to causing that hypothermia or causing his inability to escape the hypothermia, if that makes sense. The problem is, there isn't really any evidence to support that. There's not much to support this idea that a car backed into this guy. There's no real damage to the car. There is a missing taillight cover. However, when they recovered the body, there was there wasn't any report of any pieces of taillight that are like laying around. Later, when they went back 2 days later, there's 48 pieces of taillight on the ground where his body was. But again, no one saw this. It wasn't collected at the time. You've got all these cops who are at this party, and the EMTs come to try and resuscitate this guy when he's eventually found several hours after he goes missing. And the investigation is very shoddy. It involves the collection of blood for DNA samples in red Solo cups. Things are not done properly at all. The head investigator is a guy named Proctor. He was later fired, in part because when we searched the defendant's phone, he had texted someone else that he didn't find any of her nude photos or something like that. Like it's kind of wild stuff.
Did he have any head injury in addition? Was there any documented head injury in the coroner's report above and beyond the hypothermia?
There is a hematoma above his right eye. I don't know if I'm not sure. We haven't had any of the medical examiner for the supposed head trauma to the back of the head that they're saying would have caused the unconsciousness. I have I did not follow the first case. One, because my life was in crisis, but two, I had kind of started to. It happened at a bad time. And I didn't go back and review it because I want to approach this as a juror in this case, not a juror who knows the last case.
Well, and actually explain that for people who are going to listen to this. Do they have any knowledge of the prior trial? I mean, they're going to try to find a new jury that doesn't have any knowledge of this case, no preconceived notions.
Not only do they have they go through a completely new jury, and they try to get the same thing. They may have some exposure to it, but when you voir dire a juror, you're asking them, do you have any preconceived biases or opinions on the matters of this case or the specifics of this case? What do you know about it? Have you read about it? And, these teams, I didn't watch jury selection, but you're going to want to pick a jury that has little to no information. It's a big news story. And, in a local jurisdiction, you're going to have some incidental exposure. And it's not required that the jury knows nothing about it. It's just required that they have an unbiased opinion going into it, or that they at least they say they do. And so they have an entirely new jury. But one of the really interesting factors of this, in my opinion, is that one of the defense attorneys now was actually a juror in the first trial. So a juror in the first trial was an attorney. She's not a criminal defense attorney at the time. She apparently does like some insurance related stuff with trucks, maybe. And she was on that jury. She has now been hired by the defense team, which is a massive weapon because now you have access to what was actually said in a deliberation room from someone with knowledge about this. You can talk about what was effective for the previous jury, what was not effective, where they need to, polish up their defense. So
someone who is so convinced by the innocence that they now are working for the defense.
Right. That's a powerful public statement. but also just from a practical legal perspective. I mean, you have a weapon who knows everything about the arguments that happen that we will never hear. The jury room arguments are, they're protected entirely, and you normally cannot get that information unless a juror comes to you to deliver it. So
I was following it not following it live, but just following the trial. Of Emily Baker was covering it at the time, and I mean, I know of the insanity in terms of the weakness of the evidence, and people were Googling how long it takes to. There was some issue, like someone was search engineering how long does it take to die from hypothermia or something.
Right? How long to die from cold?
I mean, these are things that make absolutely zero sense, and apparently it was such an outrageous prosecution in the first place that they were even shocked they decided to retry, but they did.
Mhm.
This was day one of the actual opening statements today?
Yep, we had opening arguments today, and then we had two witnesses. The first witness was the EMT, one of the EMTs who attempted to resuscitate him after they discovered him, and the second witness is a friend of the deceased who was driving the defendant around as they were trying to find the victim, because he was missing from approximately 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. For lack of a better window of time. 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. He was in the front yard the whole time, but they were driving around to multiple houses. Snow was falling. The weather was getting worse. It's dark. And so I guess the idea is that he was laying down. He was laying down on the ground, and the snow covered him up, and so people didn't see him. However, I don't know everything about this case, but I do know that part of the defense's argument, and what one of their experts will testify to, is that his body actually starts the process of being dead at a warmer temperature and was moved later outside to a colder temperature.
How is that determined?
I think it has something to do with the fingers and post-mortem or perimortem blood flow to the extremities. Obviously, it changes the moment your heart stops, and so there's a different rate of whatever. The expert's going to tell us about it, but the defense expert is going to testify that he died in a warmer location and then was moved to a colder location. And at the same time, the prosecution is basing part of their argument on the recorded battery temperature in his cell phone, which they show it slowly going down over the course of the night. So their contention would be that no, he was outside. The battery on his phone is cooling progressively over this period of time. And so that's how you know that he was outside, because the battery wouldn't do that. The problem with that argument right out the gate is that when you've got something that goes from 100 degrees Fahrenheit, it doesn't matter if you're at 40 degrees outside or if you're at 68 degrees inside. That 100-degree battery is going to start cooling the moment the phone is not in heavy use. And so saying that there's a progression downward from a high temperature to a lower temperature doesn't mean that you're outside in the cold unless it goes below room temperature.
Okay.
But yeah, it's kind of wild.
So the trial.
Actually, I got another. I have a question. And so I actually watched the entire trial today.
I saw you
what
in chat.
did you
Thanks.
think? Yeah, absolutely. So what did you think about the prosecutor in his opening statement? So I definitely have some opinions.
I thought it was terrible. Straight out the gate, this prosecutor was apparently on Whitey Bulger's defense team, which is kind of wild. But his opening statement was a mess. I didn't understand what his overall point was. Again, he's telling me about cell phone temperatures and not really linking as to why I'm supposed to care about a cell phone temperature. I mean, my explanation that I just gave you about going from 100 degrees down to eventually it gets down to like 40 degrees once they pick up his body, and it's no longer, the cell phone was between his body and the ground. So once they pick up his body and the cell phone is exposed to the air, it drops below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. But my explanation about why that might be important was just inferred. That wasn't actually said during the opening statements. Then you've got discussion about Waze, the navigation app Waze. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, for sure.
Being a source of the data that they're going to use to prove that this woman, backed her car into this guy. But you're talking about a matter of 30 feet. And they're talking about how Waze is the most accurate navigation thing. And it's like, well, But every GPS chip in a phone is collecting the same data. Waze is just interpreting the data. If you're using Google Maps, it's getting the same exact raw data from the satellites. It's not actually changing anything. So how are you telling me that Waze is accurate enough to tell me about a 30-foot backup into a person, sufficient to convict someone of murder? Is a really, really difficult thing for me to swallow. And I don't think that the prosecutor was very eloquent in his use of just saying Waze is the most accurate, and we know this. I think any expert is going to shred that. If people don't know, GPS on your phone has an error margin, a margin of error, something like 3 or 4 meters at least in all directions. So that's not going to be very
She is
useful.
facing murder charges.
Yes, this is
And so
murder
they
with malice.
Well, so they've determined that she deliberately ran him over, and not that it was an accident after a party in the night or something.
Yeah, I think that's the argument, is that she and he were angry. She gets in her car and decides to back into him and hit him with the car. And
It's
also, there's another factor. She was above the legal limit for alcohol. She had drank several drinks that night, so she's over a 0.08. And I'm not positive on Massachusetts and how that works, but that may be a component of why they're saying murder, is that her consumption of alcohol and driving over the legal limit may have been the contributing factor to the murder charge versus a manslaughter charge. But I don't know if that's the case. I'll have to look more into it.
Hey, Encryptus, you got another question? Encryptus is
I do.
Go for it.
So one of the most interesting things that I didn't follow the first trial. This is actually my first day hearing about any of this. But
Right.
the thought about corruption and the cop involved and the evidence, the holding the evidence, the family, the connections. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, one of the problems that the state has is that all of the witnesses basically don't like this Karen Reed woman, and that predates the death of this guy. I mean, she's his girlfriend, but this is a group of Irish police officers. I don't know if they're actually Irish, but the idea.
So it's from our locals community. It seems like a good time to bring it in.
Perfect. But it's these are Massachusetts Commonwealth police officers. They sound like them. You can hear that heavy, thick New England accent, and they're drunk. Who knows what happens here? I mean, there is one other thing, one other injury I forgot to mention. His arm is covered with cuts. They've been described as lacerations. I'm not sure if it's more appropriate to call them lacerations or abrasions, but they're significant. They are, they're cuts down into blood, and the main officer, who's the homeowner where the party is taking place, had a very large dog. So now, I mean, if you talk to me about it, I hear that this guy's got a hematoma above his eye. He's got what looks like significant dog bites from about his mid forearm to his shoulder. Looks to me like he gets in a fight with the homeowner. Dog reacts, bites him. Homeowner hits him. Maybe he stumbles backwards. His head hits a counter or kitchen table, and it's lights out. He's dead. And now they've got a problem on their hands because they've got a dead cop. They don't know what to do. So they drag him outside, wait a little bit,
and try to frame his girlfriend, who they never
liked,
girlfriend
who they don't like. And I think there's a lot of merit to that theory, and I would assume that the defense is going to push that as the theory of the case. You don't, as a criminal defense attorney, you don't have to give an alternate reason. The state has to prove the case, but it really, really helps if you could say, look, here's a reasonable way this could have turned out. And doesn't it kind of seem like maybe no one tried to kill this guy, but they're really scared about it? Maybe another problem is this guy dies after being served a bunch of alcohol at this house. You've got potential civil liability issues for wrongful death if you keep serving someone who's obviously drunk alcohol. That's not just for bars. I mean, that could be for a homeowner too. That theory of liability is something you may not want to face. And so again, if you've got a scapegoat and all your friends or the cops are going to be investigating it, maybe you just drag the body outside and get everybody to agree to the story.
I know a bit of it from the original trial. I can't believe they're retrying her, and let alone
Me
for
either.
another 6 weeks. So you're going to be doing this day in and day out for the next 6 weeks, unless there's some things that come up and you can't live stream.
Yeah, I'm co-streaming with Andrew Branca, which we both broadcast to our own channels, but we're on the same screen, so that gives a little flexibility because I sometimes might have to step out and go do, like today I had to go sign something at the probation office. So I had to drive and be away for 20 minutes, but that allows Andrew to take over the stream and keep it running, and people don't have to go anywhere because he could control the video feed and all of that. So I plan on doing just about every day, although there may be a day or two where I just can't because I do have travel.
6 weeks. 6 weeks is a long freaking time to commit.
It is
8 hours a day to. But it's going to be. I mean,
something. But
yeah, no. This is. I mean, the other thing is, I don't think anyone's going to jump down your throat if you just air the trial and put your little avatar on, and just have it as on another platform. Who is It's a court camera, right? Or is it Law and Crime who has the exclusive rights again?
I don't know who has the main rights, but it's available on multiple local channels, like NBC 10 Boston, I think CBS 8 Boston had the feed up. Court TV had a feed up. I would assume Law and Crime did, but I don't talk about them too much.
No, for good reason. Nick, I'm going to go to the locals after party. I'm not going to ask you to stick around for that. It's good to see you. It's good that you're looking good. What's your
There's
locals?
a lot of comments here in tips for that were related to Nick.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me get in a second.
Sure.
Just tell everybody who's discovering you for the first time, rekietalaw.locals.com.
rekietalaw.locals.com. Yes.
Okay. Nick, nice to see you back. You mentioned who made your in-ear monitors. So that, can you say it again? Who did the molds?
Yep. 64audio.com is where I got them. They have monitors that are not custom molded all the way up to these, which have like Rekieta Law logos and stuff on them that you custom design.
Are they really Bluetooth?
No, these are not. These are wired.
Okay.
They have Bluetooth monitors, but they also have wired monitors and like Bluetooth attachments. So these are one of the companies that that recording artists use for concert stuff. The
Bluetooth causes brain cancer. I don't care what anybody says. Don't use the Bluetooth. But those look good. The range of error for GPS positioning can vary, but typically standalone GPS accuracy is about 5 to 100 meters. It's one hell of a range. Depending on factors like satellite geometry and atmospheric conditions, advanced techniques such as differential GPS can improve accuracy within 1 to 5 meters. Well, it depends on the app, right? Like if my jogging app is going to be much better than my Google's map or whatever else there is. That's from Power Cleric.
Well, see, here's the way it works, right? You get GPS data by the GPS chip that's in your phone. And some phones can, there's other data coming in, right? You have a telephone tower or cell phone tower triangulation that your phone is doing. And you can actually have Wi-Fi location data as well. And apps can marry all of that. But the reason that these things don't seem to be inaccurate is because they know where a road is, right? So when you're driving on your car, there's what, a 25-foot wide stretch that your car could be on. So even if you have a 20-meter inaccuracy in the wrong direction, the app goes, wait, but there's nothing there. That's a bunch of trees. So I'm pretty sure he's not driving there. He's probably on the road. Mm-hmm. And that inaccuracy can switch in the other direction. And then of course, the app will get, as the app gets more and more data, it's more and more refined, but it knows where you're supposed to be. That makes it look way more accurate than it is. But your GPS chip is just getting data from however many satellites it's in contact with, and it's triangulating those together. Or it might not be triangulating depending on how many satellites are there, but it's calculating where you are based on those intersections of satellite data. You can't change that app to app. You can only change how the apps interpret it. That's not raw data. That's not more accurate or less accurate than anyone else. Again, apps are guessing where you are based on the most accurate GPS readings that they get.
Encryptus, who's the man you're listening to.
It's also GPS is satellite. So during a cloudy snowstorm, the accuracy drops significantly.
Exactly.